For the 1994 World Cup qualifiers, CAF would change their format as they were now given 3 spots at the World Cup. And it was only 2 rounds. A total of 40 nations entered to participate, but only 28 nations actually completed the first round, as many nations withdrew or were forced out because of outside political reasons. Because of this, the qualifiers ended up having 1 group of 2 teams, 6 groups of 3 teams, and 2 groups of 4 teams. Whoever ended up in first place of each group would move on to the second round. And in the second round, there were 3 groups of 3 teams, in which the team that ended up on top of the group would qualify to the World Cup. Nigeria, Morocco, and Cameroon would win their round 1 and round 2 groups to be the 3 teams that qualified to the 1994 World Cup. For the 1998 World Cup qualifiers, CAF would once again change their format as now they had 5 spots available for the World Cup. 38 nations joined to participate, but 2 of them withdrew before the start of the qualifiers, so a total of 36 nations participated. There was a first round and a final round. Cameroon, Nigeria, Morocco, and Egypt all received byes into the final round, as they were the 4 highest FIFA ranked nations at the time. The first round had the other 32 nations facing 1 opponent in a home and away style, and the winner on aggregate would join Cameroon, Morocco, Nigeria, and Egypt in the final round. In the final round, there were 5 groups of 4 teams in which the winner of each group would qualify to the World Cup. These would end up being Nigeria, Tunisia, South Africa, Cameroon, and Morocco. For the 2002 World Cup qualifiers, a total of 50 nations participated in the qualifiers. The format would change. All 50 nations, all of them, would be put to face 1 opponent in a home and away style, with the winner of the series moving on to the second round. In the second round, there were 5 groups of 5 teams in which the nation that ended up on top of the table would qualify to the World Cup. In the end, Cameroon, Tunisia, South Africa, Nigeria, and Senegal would be the 5 nations to qualify to the 2002 World Cup. For the 2006 World Cup qualifiers, CAF mixed them with the 2006 AFCON qualifiers. The qualifiers had 2 rounds. DR Congo, Egypt, Ivory Coast, and Morocco got a bye into the second round, as they were the top 4 FIFA-ranked African teams at the time. The other 42 nations played 1 opponent, home and away, with the winner moving on to the second round. The second round was once again 5 groups of 5 teams, with the group winners qualifying to the World Cup. And that, in the end, would end up being Togo, Ghana, Angola, Tunisia, and Ivory Coast. Except for Tunisia, the other 4 nations would be making their World Cup debut at the 2006 World Cup. The 2010 World Cup qualifiers would change to a 3-round format. In the first round, the 10 lowest FIFA ranked nations would face 1 opponent in a home and away style, with the 5 winners going on to the second round. In the second round, the remaining 48 nations were split into 12 groups of 4 teams. The winner of each group, alongside the 8 best second place of each group, would move on to the third round. In the third round, the 20 leftover teams were split into 5 groups of 4, with the winner of each group going on to the World Cup. It was also a special World Cup, as it would be the first World Cup hosted in Africa, more specifically in South Africa. It would be the first time 6 African nations would be present at a World Cup, as South Africa would qualify directly as host nation, while Cameroon, Nigeria, Algeria, Ghana, and Ivory Coast would qualify to the tournament. At the World Cup, Nigeria, Algeria, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, and South Africa, unfortunately, all were eliminated in the group stage, making South Africa the first host nation of a World Cup to fail to reach the knockout rounds. Ghana was the only silver lining, as they went all the way to the quarterfinals, but I'm not going to talk about that match because I still get PTSD from it. For the 2014 World Cup, the format would change. The 24 lowest FIFA ranking nations would have a 1-on-1 home and away match, with the 12 winners moving on to the second round, joining the 28 highest FIFA ranked nations. In the second round, the 40 nations were split into 10 groups of 4 teams, home and away style. The winner of each group would go on to the third round, and the 10 nations would then be drawn to face one opponent in a home and away style, in which the winner of each bout would qualify to the World Cup. The teams that qualified to the World Cup would be Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Nigeria, Ghana, and Algeria. For the 2018 World Cup qualifiers, the format would change once again because sticking to a style is too complex, apparently. The lowest 26 FIFA ranked nations would be put in a one-on-one home and away style, with the winner of each bout moving on to the second round. The second round was then the highest 27 FIFA ranked nations, alongside the 13 nations that qualified from the first round. Then, once again, they were put in a one-on-one home and away style, in which the winners would go on to the third round. In the third round, the 20 nations would be split into 5 groups of 4. The winner of each group would qualify to the 2018 World Cup. These would end up being Tunisia, Nigeria, Morocco, Senegal, and Egypt. Finally, for the 2022 World Cup qualifiers, CAF would switch back to the 2014 qualifiers format. So I'm not going to repeat it because that's a lot. So in the end, the teams that qualified were Senegal, Morocco, Tunisia, Cameroon, and Ghana. As of the release of this video, the official format of CAF for the 2026 World Cup qualifiers has not been decided yet, but the format is expected to change again, as the 2026 World Cup will hold 48 teams, and CAF was allocated 9 spots with a possible 10th nation. So that's the history of the qualifiers for the AFCON men. Well, not AFCON, more CAF men. Now let's talk about the African women.